So let's look at question number 3 on your study guide. Again, phone should be put away, earbuds out your ear. Let's go ahead and get ready for tomorrow's test. Now, I don't have time to go through all of the questions, but the study guide is posted on Canvas. It was posted last week. It also has page numbers where you can look and reveal to get examples. Okay? So the test, if you prepare, you should do fine. There aren't any trick questions on the test. So let's look at question number 3. So your first step is always to isolate this absolute value. So we're going to start by isolating. So this absolute value right here, we need to get it by itself. An absolute value is not the same as a parenthesis. So you cannot multiply inside of a absolute value. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by subtracting 13. So that gives you -2 times the absolute value of 4 minus x. Go ahead, use your calculators. Type in 9 minus 13. And 9 minus 13 is -4. And now we need to divide both sides by -2. Now again, you cannot treat an absolute value the same way as a parentheses. So you can't multiply like that. That's not how you treat an absolute value. So since we can't multiply it, what could we do? What's the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. Yes. So let's divide both sides by -2. So that gives you the absolute value of 4 minus x equals +2. Okay, so an absolute value has 2 answers. So your first answer is just 4 minus x equals 2. Go ahead and solve that. Or 4 minus x equals what? What 2 numbers have an absolute value of 2? 2 numbers that have an absolute value of 2 would be +2 and what else? And -2. And -2. So let's go ahead and put the -2. Now solve both of these equations for x. So go ahead and solve them both. So the main thing is to isolate the absolute value. You cannot treat it like a parentheses. You have to get it by itself. And then once you do that, you can break it apart into 2. So go ahead and solve that equation, number 3. Solve it for x. What would be your 2 steps? How would you get rid of the 4? Subtract the 4. So go ahead and do that. Let's solve this first. So -x equals 2 minus 4. 2 minus 4 is -2. And then to get rid of the negative, because this is really a -1 in front of the x, you're going to divide both sides by -1. So your first solution is x equals 2. Now using those same 2 steps, solve this equation to get your second answer. So we subtract the 4. So now we're subtracting 4 from a -2. So -2 minus 4 is -6. And now we're dividing both sides by -1. So who got +6 for their second answer? And that would be your 2 solutions. That's it. X equals 2 and x equals 6. Any questions about number 3? Okay. Let's look at number 4. Number 4 is an absolute value, and it's less than. So when you see one of these, and it's an absolute value, just remember that the answer is between two numbers. On the test tomorrow, you will have either a less than or a greater than. I'm not going to tell you which one. The test has 11 questions on it. So you're going to have a question like number 4, or it'll be like number 5. So make sure you know them both. Now, just like with an equation, you're going to start is between two numbers. Let me finish the sentence. Hold on. So the answer is between two numbers when it's less than. All right, so the first thing we need to do is get rid of the 6. This 6 is being divided, so we're going to multiply both sides by 6. So that gives me the absolute value of 8x plus 4 is less than or equal to 10 times 6, which is 60. Okay, so for a less than, this is how you do a less than. For a less than, we're going to get rid of the absolute value. So let's drop that absolute value. And remember, I said the answer is between two numbers. So what you're going to do is take this 60 and put it on the opposite side, except it's going to be a negative 60. This is how you solve an absolute value that is less than. So let's subtract 4. Which is going to give me, so take negative 60 minus 4. Negative 60 minus 4 is negative 64. Less than or equal to 8x. Less than or equal to 60 minus 4, which is 56. So the x in the center, you need to have that x isolated. So how do I get rid of that 8? That 8 is being multiplied by x. So what's the opposite of multiplying by 8? Dividing by 8. Good job. So we're going to divide by 8. And you get that the solution is going to be numbers that fall between negative 8 and 7. So any number, if you look in the number line, any number between negative 8 and 7 is going to work. That's why for a less than, the answers are going to fall between. So let's look at number 5. Let's look at a greater than. So for a greater than, the solutions are opposite directions. So on the number line, the arrows, the numbers won't be in between two numbers. They'll be less than a number and then greater than a different number. But you always start by getting this by itself first. Okay? Hi. We're working on the study guide. So if you want, there's extra study guides in the front. So what you want to remember is you cannot do this. Like if you do this tomorrow, if you try to distribute into an absolute value, that is wrong. Cannot do that. An absolute value is not the same as a parentheses. So since we can't multiply, we're going to just have to divide it. Which is going to give us the absolute value of 2x plus 5 is greater than 11. So now you're ready to write your two inequalities. So for the first inequalities, the first one, you're just going to drop the absolute value. So it'll just be 2x plus 5 is greater than 11. But for the second one, you're going to do three things. You're going to drop, flip the sign, and change that number. Change the 11. So it becomes 2x plus 5. Then you flip that and make that a negative 11. That's how you set it up. Now go ahead and solve both of those inequalities. And the steps to solve them is subtract 5 and divide by 2. So when you subtract the 5, so if I subtract 5, then that'll give me 2x is greater than 11 minus 5, which is 6. And then divide by 2. So x is greater than 3. So we'll graph that in a second. And now for the second one, same two steps, subtract the 5. 2x is less than negative 16. Divide by 2. X is less than negative 8. So when we graph this on the number line, so let's say 0 is here in the middle. Okay, so the 3, 1, 2, 3, open circle, greater than 3. So solutions that are greater than 3 or less than negative 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, open circle. This would be your negative 8. That is your graph. So this is different when we look here. For this one, the answer fell between two numbers for a less than. But for a greater than, they're not in between. The numbers in between we don't use. We use the numbers going opposite directions. And that's really important for tomorrow's test, that you understand the difference between a less than and a greater than.
So this one, since we divided by a negative, we don't switch the sign.
So we actually didn't divide by a negative. So if we look here, notice I divided by a positive 2. I didn't have to divide by a negative. See, I divided by a positive 2. Now, if I divided by a negative, yes, I would flip it. But I actually did not divide by a negative. All right, another question. So every single question on the study guide is on the test. Like I told you, I keep saying it. There is no question on here that you don't need to know. They're all on there. Let's look at number 7. So when you look at number 7 on tomorrow's test, the first thing you want to do is find the slope. That's what you want to do first. So let's label our ordered pairs. X1, Y1, X2, Y2, and let's find the slope. So M equals, now what is Y2? Y2 is negative 2 minus Y1, which is positive 2. That's divided by X2, which is negative 3, minus X1, which is negative 1. So I always like to write it out. So when you do that, you get negative 2 minus 2, which is negative 4. When you subtract the negative, though, it changes to addition. So what's negative 3 plus 1? Because if you have negative 3 minus negative 1, that's the same as negative 3 plus 1. Aiden, are you with me? Not you, the one that's in my class. You with me? Okay, just making sure because you got test tomorrow. Okay, so negative 3 plus 1 would give you what? What's negative 3 plus 1? Negative 2? Is that what you got, Darius? If you're not sure, go ahead, type it in your calculator. Take negative 3 plus 1. You should get negative 2. And negative 4 divided by negative 2 is what? 2. So the slope is 2. So now let's go ahead and write our equations. So our first equation, we're going to do point slope. So that would be y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. And then do it again using y2 and x2. So go ahead, take a minute and write both of these two equations. So your first equation would be y minus, so what is y1? Which one of these numbers is y1? Negative 2? That's a 2. So y minus 2 equals m. And what did we figure out? What is m? 2. Parentheses, x minus negative 1. And when you subtract the negative, it changes to addition. So that would be your first equation in point slope. Now let's write our second equation in point slope. Y and then minus y2. So see how y2 is a negative 2? So that means in the equation it's going to be y minus negative 2, which changes to y plus 2 equals m. And then x minus negative 3, which is x plus 3. All right, so now let's go to slope-intercept form. So I'm actually going to use both of these. Now, when you do it on the test tomorrow, you can decide which one you want to use. But I want you to see that you get the same answer. So let's do this first one off to the side. Let's put this in slope-intercept form. So I'm just using this top equation first. Let's use that one. And to put it in slope-intercept form, that means you're solving for y. So there's a question on tomorrow's test where it says write it in slope-intercept form. That means get y by itself. Solve it for y. So for this one, the first step is going to be to multiply by 2. So that would be y minus 2 equals 2x plus 2. And then you add 2 to both sides. And you get y equals 2x plus 4. So let's just make sure, though, that's what we get. Let's do it again, except this time let's use the second equation. So try to do it again using the one I have highlighted in pink. Use that equation and solve it for y. So y plus 2 equals 2, and then x plus 3. Same thing. Distribute the 2. So when you distribute the 2, you get y plus 2 equals 2x plus 6. Now you're subtracting 2, but notice that you get the same equation. So when you're doing this on the test tomorrow, It doesn't matter which one of these point slopes you use. You get the same equation, which is y equals 2x plus 4. Okay, so we're not going to focus on standard form because we actually eliminated that from our test. So the main two formats you need to know for tomorrow are point slope and slope intercept. Okay. The next question I want to go over with you is number 10. So this is our test question. You're setting these equal to each other. That's what I want you to do when you see this. Set both of these equal to each other. The equations will be different, but the process is the same. We want to know, when will he break even? And that means, in order for it to break even, that means that they're equal. So I want you to take these two red bubbles, set them equal to each other, and solve it for x. So take 21x minus 250 equal to 9x plus 182. And solve that for x. So what did you all do first to solve it for x? What was your first step? All right, let's do that. I heard subtract 9x. You could have also added 250. So there really isn't one right answer. So go ahead, take the 21 minus 9. And that should give you 12. So now you're going to add 250. So 12x equals 182 plus 250. So what's 182 plus 250?
480.
All right, so now what are you going to do? Divide both sides by 12. And you get 36. So that means that if he makes and sells 36 wallets, then he's gonna break even. Break even means he doesn't have a loss, but he also doesn't have a profit. Ivan, do you have that? You good? Okay. So 36 wallets is his break-even amount. So he won't have a profit, but he also won't have a loss. All right, the last question I wanted to go through with you, unless there's some that you would like for me to go through with you, is number 11. So let's go through number 11 together. So we need to solve this inequality for y. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's take that first one, that 4x minus 6y is less than or equal to 12. Let's solve it for y. So how would we do that? What would be the first step? Well, we could divide by -6, but we probably want to get rid of that 4x first. So how would I get rid of the 4x? What did you say? Can't divide the 4. What would you say, Josiah? Subtract 4x from both sides. Yep, we're going to take this 4x and subtract it. Now, these are not like terms, though. So that's going to give you -6y is less than or equal to. And then these, because they're not like terms, you have -4x plus 12. So now we're ready to get rid of the -6. So we're going to divide every single thing by -6. And when you divide by a negative, what happens to the inequality? This is where we have to flip it. So that becomes a y is greater than or equal to. So what happens when you divide two numbers that are negative? Two negatives become what? Positive. So 4, you could keep it 4/6, but 4/6 reduces to 2/3. So 2/3 x, and this is the error on the study guide. I think I put a 3, but 12 divided by -6 would be a -2. So let's go ahead and graph it. Put a point at -2 on the y-axis. And from that point, because your slope is 2/3, you're going to go up 2 to the right 3. So up 2 to the right 3, put a point. Up 2 to the right 3, put a point. Up 2 to the right 3, put a point. What kind of boundary line do we use? Is it a solid line or is it dashed? Solid, good, because it says it's equal to. So let's go ahead and draw our solid line. Okay. So we got our solid line. Now this says y is greater than. So am I shading above the line or below the line? Above. So I'm going to shade above. So now let's look at our second one. So this is a vertical line because it's an X, not a Y. So if it was just Y, then that would be horizontal. So we have a vertical line and it's going to go through the point. So if you put a point at X equals 3, we're going to draw a vertical line that goes through that point. But when I draw it, is it a solid line or is it dashed? Dash. See how this does not say equal to. Now, greater than 3, greater than, is that on, so let's look at the x-axis. So is that the right side? Are these numbers greater than 3? Or are these numbers? So is it the right side or is it the left side? Right side. So let's shade that. So what you want to make sure you understand is that the solution, though, is going to fall in the area that's shaded by both colors. So that would be this area right here. Now, numbers that fall on this dashed line, we cannot use. So numbers that fall here, we can't use. Numbers that fall on the solid line, we can use. So let's go ahead and plot these points. If I put the point at 6, 2, so 6, 2 would be right here. See, that is okay. You see, because that point falls on a solid line. What about 0, 0? Is 0, 0 in the orange? Nope, let's cross that out. What about 3, 5? So 3, 5, that's on the dashed line. Numbers on the dashed line we can't use, so we're going to throw that out. What about 8, 4? Is 8, 4 okay? Yeah. What about 5, 3? That works? What about 1, negative 6? No. All right, use this time wisely. You got about 10 minutes left to get ready for your test. Test is tomorrow. Did I tell you that I also moved the extension back to Wednesday? So for homeworks 8 through 14, you can turn in up through Wednesday, the 21st, and still get full credit.